Welcome to episode 9 of Modular Podcast, talking about the free module challenge. Before we get into it, let's go around everyone that's with us. Greg, how's it going?
Not too bad, Ben. How are you?
Pretty good. Little rearranged behind you by the looks of it.
Yeah, moved my whole system around. I got another couple of modules through from Qubit. Got a wave and rhythm still in boxes over here. I need to rack. Looking forward to trying those.
I think you've been flying the flag for the Qubit chord, just hammering the Instagram videos.
Right ones there.
Well, yeah,
I've shared quite a lot of them.
Yeah, sounding good. And we've got Matthew. How's it going?
Good, thanks.
A leaning tower of surge.
Leaning tower of surge, indeed. Yeah, I finally put some kind of case together for it. It's really weird because it's just made it into an instrument for me. Like, obviously, they were just 3 independent panels, and that's fine. But just actually racking it all together, it's just somehow kind of condensed it, and I'm really kind of pleased with it. I mean, a little rough around the edges, but it kind of works. It had to fit onto this size of shelf, so that kind of determined the angle, as it were. And I kind of built a little effects rack at the top of it just to fit some pedals on. But yeah, it kind of works.
It's really neat.
I don't think I'll be putting Ross out of a job anytime soon.
I think it's the marriage of certain things when you commit to this delay is for this keyboard or this synth or whatever.
Yeah.
What have you chosen effects wise?
Well, I don't know if I mentioned it to you guys, but I got a PT delay. I don't know if it came up in conversation or anything, but I got one, which I'm absolutely loving. And I also was lucky enough to get a BIM and a BAM pretty close together. So, yeah, PT, BIM, BAM.
Yeah, nice. It's a shame that the blue's not green, so you've got a traffic light of effects.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
And then a special guest, Eurorack's most animated hands, the F-bomb dropping Mylar Melodies.
Yeah.
Not that we're
a bit bad about the F-bomb thing. Do you mean that Casio FZ video where it was like, I really upset my girlfriend who she watched. I was like, hey, look at this. I've done a video about the new keyboard thing. And she was like, why are you doing so much? Oh, fuck. I really am as well. Sorry, shit. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I got very excited when I got
It's excitement. It's definitely, you can tell it was excitement.
It's the only way I can express myself. I've got nowhere else to go. So I express my hands to the maximum amount. I've only got F-bombs left. But yeah, so did that. Trying to think what else has been going on. I went to see Steve Reich last night at the Barbican, which was pretty.
Oh wow, excellent.
Yeah, he was doing. I mean, it was a bit. I wanted to see drumming. Like, if you know drumming, it's just absolutely awesome. But that was totally sold out the moment I found out about it, and so I got tickets for all that was left, which was like basically electric counterpoint, which is where they've got 13 guitarists playing on stage, and they did the full electric counterpoint where you have everyone, not like a backing track, and then they did some other stuff, including like Three Tales, which is the one about like Hindenburg, the atomic bomb, and like the Bikini Atoll, and like the future. Well, no, it's like about sort of DNA and stuff, and it's got Richard Dawkins, and that stuff is kind of the stuff I don't really listen to of like Reich's music. It's when it comes on Spotify, you kind of don't play it. And there was a really funny comment someone said in the lobby, which was described it as like Radio 3 doing Max Headroom, which is like let's start. I was like, better play. That's actually quite a good zing. But it was amazing. Like, electric counterpoint is just 13 guitarists, 13 cabs, and a bassist, and all the guitarists have is just a swell pedal.
You lost the swell.
You just got this transcendent, like, slow, and you imagine with all those guitars, they don't sound like guitars anymore. And that's actually it was so funny. I'm watching it. I was like, holy shit, this is the orb, Little Fluffy Clouds. You know, the is electric counterpoint. So beautiful. And then apart from that, doing loads of videos and stuff. I did like a generative video, the FZ video, and been videoing this thing.
Yeah.
The
FZ video was great. Just while we're on Steve Reich, that's actually on the GCSE music syllabus here in England at the minute.
Is it?
Yeah. Which is pretty amazing, to be fair. I don't know if 15, 16-year-old minds take it in, but I hear a lot of it working in school.
Oh, that's interesting.
What pieces do they do?
Well, I hear all of Electric Counterpoint, and it's, there's a display board with this on. There's Moby. Why Does My Heart Feel So Bad? Is it Grace? Jeff Buckley?
Right.
That wasn't by him, but he covered. I think it's Grace. And then some Rachmaninoff and Haydn and various other pieces. But yeah,
it's
nice to hear it.
I think that's quite good. It fills me with hope that like the young people of England are sort of being inspired by things like that. That's really good.
Yeah, it's just changed. So we're just in the current sort of new GCSE students at school, and I'm not familiar with what they're doing yet. We're not too far in. But no, so it's good range. Like I said, I don't know whether they take it in.
Yeah.
But it's good range of stuff. The FZ1, we mentioned it just off air, and it's something people might have seen. ALM have been gutting them for their filter chips. For is it the Fizzle Guts?
Yeah,
Fizzy Guts. It was that inspired me to look for it. So we were talking about it. Matt and was saying how it's like the LFO connection. He has the same thing. I definitely have that where I'd realised that it was LFO that used the FZ in frequencies. I'd wanted one for years, and then sort of eBay searched and kind of I'd seen the price. Obviously, everyone else had realised this as well and really wanted one, and so they've just like crept. And they're like 300 quid for the keyboard. I'm just like, I don't want them that much. And then it was Matthew's Fizzle Guts that made me think, shit, I won. And then like a week later, funnily enough, one came up not far from you, Matthew, in like, I think it was actually in Keighley or somewhere like that. It's probably not far from any of you. But it was knackered. So it was 40 quid. Which is amazing, but like the keys were gluey, the thing was absolutely rinsed, like all the sliders, the buttons didn't work. It was like, it worked, but you literally couldn't press yes to sample. So it worked like once, and then that was it. I used up the last action, whatever it's a million actions that a button has. That was literally the 999,000. I bought some. There's someone who's obviously bought one and gutted it. I actually thought it was Matthew from ALM for a minute. I was like, "This isn't you, is it?" He's like, "No." Someone's selling bits of an FZ, so I bought all the button panels that go behind the scenes, and then like replacement buttons and stuff, and then tore it apart and then put it back together, and it works. It's not that hard. It's just awkward because you've got it. It's meant to be serviced. And it can be opened and levered like a lot of old synths. Like if you ever open up a DX7, they hinge. It's beautiful. It's like amazing. It's from a different era, but this thing is like a dickhead. It's like it's like a sort of 5-layer sandwich. Right at the back of it is the buttons, and obviously you've got to shift all this stuff out of the way, and you're being really delicate because you've got these big ribbon cables that the LCD works off of, and if you shear those, you're knackered because you're going to have to replace the screen, and those things are super specific. You really can't get replacements. So
I like what you said in your video about you could really tell that who had ever had it before and really used this thing. Like that was their heart of their studio, as it were. It was a definitely 90s thing of it. Like I say, that had been hooked up to an Atari ST and just clammed away.
Exactly. It's like, I know to me, it's always interesting the history of gear. Whenever I buy something from someone, I'm always asking them like, did you buy this from new, or who did you get it from? Like, and there's certain things like, because it's the provenance, and you think if we own things like, I've got a Juno 60, which is from 1983 or wherever. 60 is a sticker to Abershaw on Valentine's Day 1993. And I don't know why that's a Royal Mail like sticker, as if someone just put my Juno 60 in the post and then posted it on that day, which is like, and you just think, well, who's owned this and what did they do with it over the years? And I don't know, it's maybe it's just my own sort of weird fetishism of gear, but I find it interesting. Like the other one is that I've got this JV 1080 that was used on Teardrop, the JV 1080 that made the harpsichord sound out of Teardrop.
Oh, no.
And that's just like scary to own, because I'm like, oh no. But it's interesting.
It's not all Massive Attack fingerprints on it. You've not gone investigating like mad.
There is a weird little, like, there's a sort of strange little arrow symbol that someone's drawn on it, like a little kind of, almost looks like one of those things you would get as a tattoo. I've never understood that. Also, it's fully expanded, which is really nice. It's got like the Asia and like other cards, like all 4 bays are used up. And it was a really good price. So, but it's just cool. I like the idea of buying the sort of uncool gear more expensive as time goes on. It will be the next. I mean, it's so stupid, but it will be. It will be like quad reverbs and JV 1080s that people want next, because we'll have rinsed every analog sound going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the cheap reverb thing, Audio Damage's first reverb, and I think they're redoing it in their new 6HP format. The Averb, Aphex Twin Autechre verb. That was based on a cheap Casio reverb unit? That's based on.
Could be. I like that. Has anyone got one of those?
No, not the module. I mean, I had the Alesis MIDI verb, as many people did. Cheap rack unit.
Yeah, the quad reverb.
Yeah. I still have a quad reverb I've never used.
Yeah, but they're on so much stuff that we like. So, like you said, you take a step forward from the Simpson, and it's all this what's now cheap 90s effects that we're all used to listening to. Speaking of which, my little bit of show and tell, just quickly. Boss repitching delay.
Nice.
I had a full rack of these and sold them all. Like
It sounds fantastic. It really does sound good.
What's weird with it is, well, there's a hold on it, which is a really crude, like, hold what's in the delay buffer, stuttery repeat thing. But around the back, you've got this keyboard. It might not come up. Keyboard control, and it takes audio to repitch the delay.
Holy shit! That's like the adverb.
So it wants, a clean wave. So if you can give it a square wave at, I don't know. It tells you in the thing what the notes and what voltages equate to shifting an octave and so on.
But yeah, it wants to work within a fairly limited amount. But if you step either side of that, beautiful glitch happens, doesn't it?
Yeah. I need a power supply that's not noisy. I have a really cheap, crappy 9-volt pedals power supply that's quite noisy with it. But yeah, they're really nice. The reverb in that was quite good, and the chorus, but again, I just wasn't using it. And someone wanted the whole little micro rack, so I got rid. But I think feeding wavetables in should be good.
Yeah.
All the crossing points keep changing, but the pitch isn't. I think it'll just completely freak it out.
Yeah, that would be good.
It should be
good
cool.
choice of the one to keep as well. That pitch one is I've wanted for ages, just because I'm like with pitched reverbs. I only just got pitch delays. I got the adverb as well recently, which is the Echophone for that, which is just like that's just the best.
Yeah, Echophone and adverb together is an amazing pair.
There's a couple of good videos actually on YouTube on that Boss one there. Really good. Showing that kind of effect of it glitching when you drop it between its octave range that it wants.
Yeah, it's only something like 3 octaves in it, and it's quite high up. It's working around like C6, C7 kind of MIDI note area. Yeah,
it's when you go lower down, you get some starts to go really kind of linear and square. It's really good.
And it's got the sacred reverse delay as well, which you can also do the weird pitch in the hold stuff too. It needs hacking to the hold. I think you can do the hold. Yeah, there's a pedal input for the hold.
Right.
So if I attenuate it carefully, we might be able to gate on and off, like random gate the hold.
Yeah.
I suppose using the SBG that you've got, Greg, would do that.
Yeah, that will do. I was going to say that.
The
easy way, it stops all that messing with, as you say, with attenuation coming out. It's just easy to use, Plug it in and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I want to get one of these. I don't know if anyone else has got one.
Does that invert and attenuate the expression CV out? Because you take modular CV into the Strymon stuff, don't you?
Yeah, we'll do, yeah.
Yeah, because it's not just the level up and down for the audio. It's the expression that the others don't have. I've got the other ones, you know, the Dope for A138D, Suestopol. They're great for pedals, but it's the CV that I'm interested in.
That's why I use it with the Avalanche run as well. And that has to kind of toggle for the reverse. So you can kind of switch. If I just set a DC offset, you can just switch between reverse and forward.
Oh, right. That's such a good idea.
How would you feel, last thing before we get on topic, how do you feel about pedals, Alex? We're all on a real pedal binge at the minute.
Oh, I lost you for a sec. Go on.
Just saying, how do you feel about guitar pedals and synths? Do you use any? Are you interested? Are you not interested? We're all on a mad binge for effects pedals at the minute.
I like them. It's like I know more of the Eventide stuff. I've used that a lot, but I've got a couple of guitar pedals, including this little bad boy. The little this is the Behringer Echo machine, which is actually really good. Like, I mean,
it sounds really.
Yeah, Ben lent me his a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't believe it. Like £40 box thing or whatever, and it sounds amazing. Absolutely,
like 20 quid. Yeah, it's because I basically I've got two pedals because I'm playing with this band the early years, so we are playing live, and I've got a like this, but used, as we said, like tap tempo and just sort of clean and analog-y delay, like it's absolutely sweet. But this, I kind of wanted something that was more wobbly, and it does do that whole like quivery sort of, you know, where it's like there's a sample and hold on the delay lines, and it's but I kind of not I've not massively got into guitar pedals just because there's certain modular effects. I tried to keep it more modular, hence the Verb and the Echophone. Those were kind of the ones.
Yeah,
absolutely. Been for years now. Been like, I need to own at some point, and I finally got them. But then if there's some other things that I hear that people say are essential. Like someone was saying that the Dope for Phaser, is it the Phaser is supposed to be amazing?
Not made anymore. Don't you have one of those, Matthew?
Yeah, I do. It's great. It is really good. Very kind of noisy, but in a very good way. And obviously you got CV control as well. Yeah, I don't know why they started. I don't know if it was a chip availability or something. But yeah,
I think it was. I think I remember reading the Muff thread on it. I think it was.
I got that when I bought my first sort of system. It kind of, I don't think it was with the standard A100, but I got it at the same time. But yeah, it does.
What makes it so special, though? What is the?
I really like it because it can do it's super thin kind of phasing. You know, as well as that kind of small stone, kind of nice wide bottom end stuff. I really like the kind of putting kind of a treble top end sound through it, and you get that really kind of band passy sort of phasing going on there, which I really like.
It's probably going to fit better in a mix, really. I saw online there's one of those clickbaity articles which was like, have you discovered the Abbey Road reverb trick?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna have to watch this now. Basically, whatever the Abbey Road reverb trick is, basically high passing at like 6K and then low passing at like 10.
They're moving that back.
Just to like
we've completely lost you there, Alex. High passing at 6, low passing at 10.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right. 11,
pause for this.
But
yeah, you're back.
Oh, sweet. But yeah, basically it's just band passing it, band pass the reverb, and it beds it in a lot nicer. Like it works.
Right.
Like I do get what he means. So it mixes better.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can have more of it as well. It's like the shorter the reverb, the more you can have in a mix. There's always been a mix thing in recording, and it applies to synth stuff as well. But yeah, well, let's get on topic. 3-module challenge. We've all done one. The response to this, I think, has blown us all away. I thought 10 people might join in and then tune in and see what we have to say, but just looking now, I'll share the screen and just quickly flick through. There we go. I mean, just scrolling through Instagram, there's 227 posts. Some nice stuff that's not just Eurorack, some 5U stuff, some of the new micro braids. Yeah, all sorts. Loads of stuff. I mean, 200 odd posts on there. I know it's on Vimeo, YouTube. Quite a lot posted straight to Facebook, some onto Twitter. So in this show, we said we'd give a T-shirt away. We're still going to give a T-shirt away and sort of pick out a winner if you like, but we're going to follow it up with a video in a week or so, just because there's so much stuff. A couple of us have been away as well. So we're not going to do that this show, but we will. Did anyone, any particular like real standout ones? I think Rings came up quite a lot, Octa Controller quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rings seem to be a popular choice for people, didn't it, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a funny one, isn't it? The rules were fairly strange, I guess, because we said no voice modules where you don't have an envelope, an LFO, a filter, an oscillator, a mixer, a noise source, i.e. Mother 32 and Atlantis. But Rings is a voice in the same way that Braids can be, Elements is. It was funny watching, I think you, Greg, at some point said someone couldn't use those air attenuators from RYO.
Yeah, I thought not everybody will have them, so make it as even as possible, but they could have gave in.
I wished I had some.
Someone asked about an expander, saying, "No, I've used the Quadra, but I've used the expander. Is that all right?" I said, nope, not happening. Just time. Well, yeah, other than the only ones that were an exclusion were power modules. If it's not fitted in the case, you obviously need it. And output, if it's just dealing with dropping it to line level for you to record or whatever your setup is.
No, when you see my patch, you'll see 4 modules.
Yeah, but again, just using it for level control. You could have attenuated it on a mixer or something.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into patch. Was there anything anyone didn't use because you thought everyone else would use it?
Well, I don't. Yeah, I just tried to use not so much unusual ones, but I guess I did look around and think, what probably people not going to use. So that's why I went for the Telharmonic, because not many people have got that, and I love it. So that's my personal choice. I did that. But yeah, I did try to push myself a little bit, and not just let's go for this because that's got lots of functions on it, or that kind of thing. I just tried to kind of push myself a little bit, really.
I suppose the obvious one, I immediately thought maths. And then
yeah, I did. I
everybody will use maths.
Yeah.
Well, I thought Octo Controller, and both you, Alex, and Greg have both used it, so I'm kind of glad I didn't. So, the majority of us didn't use it. But that's really a sort of saviour in that 8 different modulation outputs.
Yeah.
The medium.
Oh yeah, I'm not getting at anyone for doing it.
No.
I just thought, I don't have an Octa controller anyway. But yeah, I like Greg just mentioned. I just thought, maths, tons of options there.
Yeah,
modulate the hell out of anything. And I thought, no, hang on, think of something else.
Yeah. Well, I did. The Octa controller came to mind first. Greg had told me he was using it, so I thought, well, I won't, but it certainly would have been mine, and Alex used it as well. Well, we'll get into each other's patches. Should we start with yours, Alex? Why did you pick the modules that you did?
So I was going to put Rings in. I'm really glad I didn't, because everyone else did. I've got basically a bit of a man crush on Rings at the moment, so it was tempting. But I think it was because I sort of thought 90, and I was like, well, Acme is the one that there's so much, because you've got this ability to affect it, like having 4 sound generators, 4 VCAs built into a module. So I was like, well, the Castle, and then it was like, obvious, I'll use the Octa controller. So I remember playing with the Castle to start with and thinking, Jesus, if you just had loads of LFOs, you could just make a track with just basically a controller into the various sort of bits and bobs of the Acames to bring things in and out. And then because you've got attenuverters, yeah, you can see it here. So you've got attenuverters on those operator 1, 2, 3, 4s, then you can actually manually play the sort of blending in of your set. Because this is the thing I was saying, I don't have attenuators or anything. So suddenly I wasn't able to, I really wanted to modulate the amount that was coming out of the Octo controller. But because you've got them on the Castle, you can. And so I board mode. And the only thing I sort of gave myself a little pat on the back for was using a square wave, rhythmical square wave out of the Octo controller into the feedback. Because feedback at high levels sort of turns it into a noise source, that kind of gave a snare. So it's like,
yeah,
you know, a rhythmic. So you got you got a rhythmic element. I was thinking, you know, if the Octo controller kind of, it's a bit trickier, but like if I'd done it with, if I could have had a maths as well, then I could have sort of got a beat going by, you know, with an envelope gen and kind of, maybe there's a way of doing that on the Octo controller with the correct phase and stuff. But I found it really interesting. Not so much the part of deciding what modules to pick, but once I started messing with this, I actually did like 3 takes. So I did like a first take and a second and a third. And each time I was sort of learning the system a bit more. And I mean, I assume this is the point. I mean, I'm stating the bloody obvious, but the point of the challenge is that it's an exercise in being creative with a limitation, in the sense of like, I was then thinking of how to perform, how could I maximize the musicality and create a whole track out of just this. I thought it was great. I was thinking, shit, you know, you could make a whole album just from this gear. You know, you might want a few little attenuators and bits and bobs, but I got 3 not completely, but 3 different musical ideas, particularly because you have the ARP controller, so you've instantly got like a little melodic line. Yeah, it was fun. It was great actually, because I've been thinking a lot about limitations. I have way too much gear. We all do.
Yeah, well, there's your video, which we'll link in the description. Obviously, go subscribe to Mylar Melodies as well. And then there's audio that we'll put up as a patch example, as we usually do for the shows. You can sort of hear how they're different. One thing that I thought was great, Herb Verb can get really metallic at certain settings and when it's modulated, and there were some bits where I wasn't sure if you just sort of ragged a couple of knobs on the Herb Verb or whether it was the Akemi's feedback kicking in.
I think it's a bit of the both actually, because I was manually. You didn't say whether hands were allowed, like jazzy hands.
Oh yeah, I'm well up for that. I really like the idea that everyone got stuck in.
The Akemi's then in that case, but what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I actually weirdly thought just to have done it with just the Herb Verb and the Octo controller, or like an Herb Verb and a maths, you could easily make soundscapes. You could actually, really, you could just do it with the Herb Verb alone, because you can make these amazing horrorscapes on that thing. Like you could just do something really spooky. And
that trick with, I think there's a Make Noise video, or certainly it's in the manual or something, the trick of taking its envelope follower out, putting it into the attenuverter for the decay, and inverting it slightly so that when it's just going to go too far and start clipping and internally feeding back too much, it pulls itself back down. And you can just have it hover on that like perfect 100% oscillation kind of vibe. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And the Octo controller, it does make things really easy. What's really cool with the Octo controller, and something that's got 2 volt per octave ins, like an AFG from Livewire, take 2 arpeggios out, one running at say 16th notes, one running at 1 note per bar, and you've got your transposing low arpeggio while the other one sort of dots about over the top of it. That's quite.
I didn't have a mixer. That was the only pain. Otherwise, I'd have used the second channel on the Castle, because obviously, if only the the Herb was stereo input, then I would have been like, oh, I've got my little mixer there. It didn't work. So
I do really wish it was stereo, the Herb Verb.
Yeah. But this is a great thing, though, isn't it? About this, we're going to keep going back to this 3-module challenge thing, where it's like, there's loads of times I thought, I've just bought another LF. Oh no, I won't, because I can't. It's 3 modules. Yeah. And it just the whole thing of it shaping the aesthetic just by being these 3 that you chose for this, And this is why if we're doing this as an ongoing thing, or we come back to this, 3 different modules make you think in a totally different way, And then it's almost like you can get what you've learned from that little exercise, then apply it to some other stuff,
Just your philosophy in general. Like, there was something I made a note to bring up because it relates to it. I met was talking to Gordon Reed, who does he's like synth guy at Sound on Sound, does their reviews.
Yeah.
The Mini Moog specifically, and you were saying how the beauty of the Mini Moog is the fact that it is very simple. It's like with the Juno 60 and stuff. Like, it only makes certain sounds, but every sound it makes is amazing. And it's this idea that he said making sounds and making music is a bit like cooking. When you cook, you don't put every ingredient in your cupboard in the food because the food will taste like shit. You only put maybe 2 things that really complement one another. And you don't, otherwise it's literally over egging the pudding. And it's like that philosophy, that analogy is perfectly absolutely translates. And it's what this was like. It was like, and I even found I was over egging with the Octa controller. You've got so many inputs. I found that actually the best moment was when I just backed off everything and I just had a really nice little melody and a little bit of reverb, and you could just enjoy that. Don't just apply a crap ton of modulation just because you've got it available.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, how many times have we also perhaps done it where you get stuck into a patch and you think, oh yeah, now I'm going to put this other LFO and then I'm going to put this other button, and then you've lost it and then go, no, where's that sound gone now that I just had 5 minutes ago? I've just added too much, But yeah,
really nice thing at that point when you go, say, 5 cables too far and you can't remember what you've done. I like closing my eyes and unpatching and listening, and it might be that I plugged the wrong thing out, so the whole thing stops. I've unplugged my clock, it's real sort of happy accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've almost got to go too far to do it. When you're in that moment of, God, this patch sounds amazing, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. I feel like I know what's going on too much. And then deliberately saying, or overly excitedly going, I'll just do this and I'll just modulate this and change this. And then just reaching out and just randomly pulling. And I found some nice stuff that way. Also a lot of rubbish. But it's been nice. Matthew, you mentioned the Telharmonic. I recently played with one at Steve Synth Patches that was on a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
Making T-shirts and things that, again, this is something we can link to and people go back and watch things. But the Telharmonic sounded great when I played with it. This sort of modulating additive chord tone that I've not really heard anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's not got the spotlight which a lot of the other kind of noise stuff has had. It just didn't seem to have caught the people's imagination much. And I got it kind of as soon as it came out, when I kind of read about it and thought, yeah, this is for me. Because, I mean, certainly this year has been the year of the chord in modular. But this was kind of one of the pretty much first to the post within that kind of realm. So that's what kind of I jumped on it. And I really like it. I mean, a lot of people have sort of said, oh, it's a bit simplistic, a bit kind of only does 1 or 2 sounds. But again, like what you were just saying earlier about the kind of Juno or the Moog doing one thing but really, really well, that's kind of what it does for me. And plus you've got quite a few different hidden features in there. You've got which you can have some really sort of bizarre fun with. You've got the Shepherd tone generator, and you've got the shift register, which is what I used for this piece. So you've got these some really kind of cool hidden modes in there. And it just,
sorry, I was going to say it sounded fucking amazing as well.
Yeah.
I think I like yours best out of all the ones
Yeah,
I've heard.
so do I.
I was like, this is amazing.
it's just, again, if you just look at that picture of the, that part, it just looks like the most small, pathetic, I've only got £5 to start a modular kind of.
I like that you've done that though. You've put it in a big case and you've done the Muff Wiggler. What a case and 3 modules. What should I buy next?
Exactly. But it's and they just had so I just knew that the Telharmonic were just going to deliver in this scenario. Or this just.
Did you use Parasites on the clouds? What was the reverb?
It was just that Olivia
verb, yeah.
Right.
And I just kind of manually played around with like the decay levels and stuff like that, and then kind of nearly about few minutes before the end, I just put it in like a freeze mode and then just messed around with the frozen state, as it were. But yeah, from there, it's just got, so basically you put it into shift register mode, so it'll act as a 3-stage shift register. You basically hold the button down for like just over 2 seconds and it kind of goes into that mode. And then it won't update the shift register unless it receives a gate to something called the D gate. So that's when it kind of cascades down to the next shift register. So you get kind of cycling arpeggio, it's kind of thing. But I just had it on a very slow clock from the Nanorand. So it just kind of gave these kind of shifting chordal changes. But yeah, again, I was going to go for the ultra random was another kind of, I thought, oh, I'll use that because again, I've got lots more kind of modulation options. But no, I just decided to stick with that one just to kind of limit it again. I got kind of almost carried away with limiting with stuff, really.
But again, the Nanorand's a bit of a hidden weapon as one of those, like, I like to think of them as little hubs.
Yeah.
A little hub of randomness. With all the in-time random gate and multiplication stuff it does as well.
Yeah.
It seems to do that differently to how the other modules do as well. It's like CV in the rotation on a 4MS SCM. Everything, it's like cycling between in-time triplets and moving up to 64th notes and 30 seconds and things.
Well, it's interesting when we had Richard Devine on the show and he was talking about he'd basically got every single random module out there. And you think, some people may think, well, once you've got 1 or 2, surely that's enough random for you. But they all do different, they do random in different ways, which sounds a real kind of contradictory term. You know, you think random would just be random.
Well, no, but again, just while we're referencing all the shows, having Mark Verbos on the random show as well, and his random module does the same thing in that it's all different. Some knobs share functions, so if you genuinely want more of everything, they'll share a sort of go faster knob, like Boy Racer go faster stripe on the front. But they don't actually share or relate to each other in terms of the random gates and the CV distribution. So did you say Clouds was the Oliverb? No granular, no, just the reverb.
Yeah.
How is it, Oliverb?
It was fine. I mean, for that, I again, kind of before I started recording, I had to kind of nudge it into a place where I was okay with it because of the sort of the strength of the signal and not having any mixing, etc. It was distorting quite quickly, and I don't think that wasn't a fault of the reverb. It was a fault of not having sort of any information in the chain really, other than what was on the actual reverb. So I kind of had to kind of get a window where I thought, yeah, that's kind of okay there. Don't go beyond that, and then I kind of hit record after that. But again, it was all part of the challenge, so it was good to be able to do that. Just think about how can I solve this problem of volume without just simply go to the mixer, you know?
Yeah. It did sound really, really good, but I'm not buying you a T-shirt.
Oh, well, thank you. No, it was just, again, it's just such a, you know, as you know, I mentioned that, like, you did about 3 passes. I did that. I kind of tried to, and it wasn't particularly one was better than the other. It was just thought, God, I'm having so much fun doing this. I'm going to do another slight variation, you know. Yeah. And yeah.
Well, they're all. I think we've all picked out, for me, what are like really key. Not just key for function, but key for fun modules. The Chemi's Castle is just amazing at all those FM tones. And unlike anything else, you've got it all at your fingertips. Controller, ultra random, that I'll talk about in a minute. Rings came up a lot. There's all the bonus modes in Rings that you got into all those, Alex, didn't you? I've not got into them all yet.
I haven't yet either.
Neither have I.
Have you been exploring?
Yeah, I mean, that is wild. It's all.
Oh, we'll try that again. We've just lost you.
I'm back. Yeah, well, Rings is just. I mean, that's the I'm surprised you're including Rings because it's so complete, like the sounds it can make. Plus also because it's poly, but the string machine on that, I remember like first engaging and just being like, because it was playing a melody. I was playing a melody into it at the time, engage that, and just suddenly this gorgeous, huge, like amazing set of tones just come out. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like Olivier's justifies the hype, basically, I would say.
Yeah.
So such a good module.
Yeah, that's based on I pull that up just as a reference for people that might not have seen it. Knowing what Rings does, modal modes, string modes, things like that, it does have what's essentially a Roland RS-09 built in, which was the organ and string generator.
All right, I didn't know that.
Didn't know
Yeah.
that.
One of the modes is a sort of polyphonic string synth.
All right.
It was based on this one, you know.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's referenced somewhere, with built-in reverb and everything else, which is crazy. Moving on to yours, Greg. Greg, we've mentioned some of the modules: Octo controller, Rings, Z-DSP.
I think we've all used the kind of reverb as well. It's another common thing that's coming up.
I
Yeah.
looked at this and was like, hey, you stole my idea. I said,
Yeah.
"Right, it's still yours."
Yeah, pretty much my Octo controller, using it much in the same way as Alex. Good thing about the Octo controller as well is if you've got a lot of modulations coming out, you can offset them from each other, even though they're running at the same clock speed. If you offset them, you get this kind of cascading modulation.
All right.
Which is what I did with Rings a little bit, and it can sound a little bit like a delay is used. Somebody asked me on Instagram, did I use a delay? And I didn't. It just kind of sounds like that a little bit because of the cascading.
Yeah, just moving on.
Well, some, obviously we're not naming names, it's not a name and shame thing, but there are resets on certain modules that don't reset properly, which is a pain. They sort of do while they semi-work, and I think that's important for people getting into modular. Don't expect everything to work just exactly as it should, the same way every single time. But the fact that the Octo controller under clock and under reset, and it resets like a trooper, will give you 8 LFOs that all reset properly to the exact phase that you set and the exact multiplication or division, isn't to be sniffed at. It's ace.
It's really good for that.
It also can be
I'm sending out an arpeggio from it as well, and the arpeggios even are nice.
You can mimic, I mean, if you had a steady clock to a shift register, so it was properly, shifting every quarter note or whatever, you can do that with a phase. If you've got the same arpeggio, exactly the same on 3 outs, and you just set the phase off from each other, and you've got 3 different voices.
The start points are just different, are they?
Yeah, so notes will either start later within the same note, or the first one's 3 notes ahead of the other, or and again, that all resets properly, and you can change the phase. It's the same with making beats. Like if you're making a house beat where the kick's on every quarter note, the snare's on every other, you can shift the phase so that the snare would be on beats 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, or your division for your hi-hats is the same as the kick. There's 4 in a bar, but the hi-hats on the off beat, so you just set the phase off so it's in between. Really cool module. So what we're using, I'll pull up the image again. You had the arpeggiator going.
Had the arpeggiator going, and the others are mostly LFOs, but there's one rhythmical loop going as well. Actually, I think it's a sample and hold gate that I just kind of locked within a certain range.
Yeah.
And then coming out to the Z-DSP, it's just coming out to the tone control, which is pretty much just filtering it every now and again. Like Matthew said, it clips in parts, this patch, but I was trying to control that a little bit with taking the tone down at parts.
Yeah. The tone's interesting. It was the Halls of Valhalla card.
Yeah, it was Halls of Valhalla. It was one of the bigger reverbs. I think it was Asgard I used.
Yeah. Nilfheim Gigunga Gap, or however you say the last one. The tone control is interesting in that. I don't know where it is in the, well, it's code because it's digital, but it's within the circuit, because it sort of has a lag on the tone a little bit.
Yeah.
Almost like it's filtering the delays that are diffusing around to create the reverb. So it's like it plays catch up a little bit, which is nice. It gives it a bit of character when you modulate it. And then, yeah, using your output module, cheeky number 4. But just to go down to line level. The Halls of Valhalla, I think, absolutely blew me away when I got that thing. Really is one of the best reverbs I think I've heard anywhere. Hardware, software. I forget his name. Sean Costello.
Sean Costello.
Valhalla.
That needs to be a standalone module massively, because I use all his verbs and plugins, and they're my favorite. Like, I've got Room, Plate, haven't got Shimmer, and I've got Vintage as well. And yeah,
you could easily release that as a single module, couldn't it?
Yeah, easily.
Well, I know he worked with Audio Damage on, what's their reverb called that looks like the old Vintage unit on the front? A plugin, not a hardware or a module.
Like Rat Shack reverb?
No, not the Rat Shack one. They've got a sort of nice Lexicon-like reverb, if you like. I can't remember what it is, but he's definitely worked with them. And I know Sean said as well on, I think it was on Twitter or on his blog on Valhalla DSP website, because of the restrictions that the chip uses in the Z-DSP, I think it's an FV1 spin chip, he wants to rework that into code for a plugin as well.
All right.
You had to really work around the format of that module and that specific chip.
Don't know how he's done it. Didn't you get a second Z-DSP just because you wanted to leave one on Halls of Valhalla all the time, Ben?
Yeah, and I'm kind of tempted to buy a second Halls of Valhalla card. I'm going to build a little studio effects box. I've been playing a bit more guitar, and we're all binging on pedals at the minute, but I want a sort of little studio in and out box. Because that, I mean, even the guitar into the cathedral mode with a really low decay, it really does sound like sitting and playing a guitar in the corner of a church. It's not all really long, gorgeous ambient washes. You can do small rooms and cathedrals and plates.
The ensemble verb is really nice as well. I've been using that a lot lately.
The chorus is really nice as well. You could just do the chorus. That's part of the reverbs. If they did a Valhalla chorus module, it's really nice.
I mean,
have you tried the? Oh, sorry. Have you tried the? What was it? The free one he gave away, the Ultra Modulator thing.
No, I'm not trying that.
Yeah, Space Modulator, which was given away for doing a survey. That thing, I mean, actually, as a free plugin, is astonishingly good. And that's like a sort of phasery thing. But like, for example, I was just doing this No Coast video, and I tracked the duck for spring reverb on its own channel, obviously in mono. And I just put the Valhalla space and it's all just put it on. Yeah, it sounds like
I lost you entirely there, but
got heaven at the end. That was
we got the gist of it.
Basically, all you need to know, I think.
Yeah, heaven.
Had the heaven plugin over the door for spring reverb.
Well, out of all of us, I don't have that module or anything. But like when I came around to yours, Ben, and just heard it straight away, it was just like, just stood there like, oh my god, I have to pick my jaw up off the floor, and it was really, oh, I see now what all the noise is about this thing.
Yeah.
You really got to hear it in the flesh.
It was a couple of weeks ago I went to an Ableton user group, and I did kind of integration with modular effects with Ableton. Just had a little bit of a talk with the guys there. And I think out of all the things I showed them, they were most blown away by Halls of Valhalla. They were just like, wow, these are guys that just work in the box mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. But that Z-DSP, they've given it absolutely every bit of analog backend and digital control they could. You've only got 3 parameters per card to modulate, but you've analog feedback path, feedback in and outs. You can CV the feedback levels, so there's an extra pair of VCAs. The mixer's got CV. You can CV or clock or trigger through the algorithms. It's nuts. It really is. I'm really glad I've got 2. I bought Ross's old one, actually. Which leads me on to my patch, which I'll pull up, which were another effect that I just had one of those moments where absolutely blew myself away with how good it is. The 4MS DLD.
Really like this patch. I thought it was excellent.
I mean, I've lent you it today, Matthew. This is where Matthew lives. You find DLDs under cars in driveways. I left Matthew a parcel earlier today to check it out. The DLD, that and the Halls of Valhalla have been like, these are the best. And I don't like saying best because it's all subjective, and I like different things for different reasons at different times, but it really is very, very good. I've just finished, I'm in the middle of the edit, finished filming a video for the DLD. It only needs the tiniest bit of modulation over delay time, which you can do quantized or unquantized, and a filter in the feedback path, and it's like the best analog delay sound with as much or as little warble or color as you want.
Wow.
It's so good. And then when you do RCV and everything, and you're changing all the time, and it's all in time, moving between various clock divisions, there's none of that analog repitching.
All right.
But it stays really, really musical because it's not. I know that's great sometimes when you're playing with a BBD delay or analog pedal or something, but it never repitches delays. But again, things like you've got a delay feed level that's separate to the mix, and you can CV that, so it's like having two VCAs on the input to each delay.
That's what I like about when 4MS do something like this, like with the resonator and stuff. They just, you know, if there's one thing you can't accuse them of is CV inputs. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's not like, oh,
they don't fuck around, basically.
I wish it had more CV. They just do it. You know, where that's normally a comment that people say about a lot of modules.
One trick I found with it, so people may or may not have seen it and know different amounts. It shares a clock, or a ping, as it's called on all the 4MS devices, and then you've got your two different divisions and multiplications, and then you sort of two delays that can be dual mono, so they're running independent or into each other, or stereo. I said two mono, stereo in, stereo out, mono to stereo. You can use it in loads of ways. And everything's only like one button press away. With the amount I knew it could do, I wondered that I'd have to like karate claw hand hold a certain button and twist something else. Everything's like hold the reverse button and turn this, and it changes its behavior. It's really simple. If you press the hold button, the infinite hold, and change the time knob, it locks that to whatever the ping is set to, the master clock, and then you can put another clock in. So it really is two completely independent delays that don't have to have anything to do with each other.
All right.
That was one of those reading the manual like, really? So this isn't just different divisions. I can completely clock the two, even though there's only one clock input, which is really cool for audio rate stuff. All the Car Plus Strong.
Didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, it could come completely independent. I mean, you might not want to do it most of the time because you've got a lot of time control anyway, but if a really separate, unrelated clock speed, you can do it. And like changing the CV input to not quantize between eighth notes, 16s, all your musical divisions. If you want that to respond in a volt per octave way, again, you just hold time, hold the hold button, and just turn a knob. And to get out of that, you just turn the knob without holding the button in. Really, really simple. You don't have to do any of that to have fun with it, though.
I've seen it. I was at Moogfest and I saw Dan Green doing a demo with that, and he had like a drum loop going into it and was basically making like chopped up breaks live with clock divisions. Like, I really love their sort of commitment to making everything clocked in the timing, musical, like the QCD, the peg, and like all these things. I think that's just absolutely the way to do it. Like, his love of clocks, I completely respect.
Yeah, I really like that. That design philosophy that they've had right the way through their kind of products is like, make it about the clock.
Yeah.
Like, what fun can we have with dividing and multiplying the clock on every module effectively. It's really cool.
Mm.
Yeah, he's doing something similar at Superbooth when I met Dan and checked it out in person, where he sort of had one pattern in 7, so he did all this polymeter, polyrhythm stuff, and then another in 5, so they were all overlapping, and it sounded like 2 drummers where their loops had been chopped. But then you can window around the buffer and the sample as well. So if you've frozen and you've got infinite hold on, so you're just repeating, say, this bit of audio, well, you've got 3 minutes aside, so you can change the time and get more of the audio in, or you can sort of window around. And interestingly, you can clear it just by holding a button for 2 seconds, but because you get 2 minutes and 54 aside, you can window around to what you were doing earlier that day. I was windowing through drum loops for the video, trying to find a point, and then heard a synth sound, and I realised that's what I'd done about 6 hours ago, but I just left it on. Just a buffer.
I find that insane that it's got 3 minutes per side. That's just like ludicrous.
Well, like I've said to you, Ben, I mean, the reason why I'm glad that you've lent to me is the fact I want to go the other way, actually, is to find if it will do the sort of infamous time lag accumulator effect that like Terry Riley pioneered and Brian Eno used on discrete music and stuff, where you take 2, and Frippertronics is where you basically take 2 reel-to-reels, pass the tape from one reel, don't put it on the second reel, you move it along to another machine, and the distance in between is your delay time. But so basically you get these huge delays that each time they come round get quieter and quieter and more muffled and fade away. And that's what I kind of want to see if that will do it. I'm quite sure it will, just because of that length of time you can do the delay.
The way to do it, I did a sound-on-sound looping thing for the video, and you could use pressure points or an offset knob or a joystick, anything that's nicely playable.
Right.
I use knobs by Rabid Elephants just for a crossfader to play with. And I put that on delay feed. So like a dub effect, I had feedback at 100% and just throw the fader up and down. And then that's it then. It's sat in that delay buffer, just going round and round. So I did that, retuned an oscillator, did it again, and ended up putting 4 notes in for like a frozen chord voice thing. Just so I worked my way up a chord, keep throwing it into the delay. All you need to do is set the feedback at sort of 90%.
Mm. But it's just that length of each time when it comes round should be getting quieter and quieter.
Yeah. What's really nice with the hold as well is the way that they've scaled the feedback knob. There's sort of a good chunk that's left for 100% feedback, so it's really easy just to turn it to it. But if you put hold on, which is 100% feedback, it's just holding and just repeating around this buffer. When you take hold off, it goes back to what the feedback's set to.
All right.
Which, makes sense. So if there's no feedback at all, hold will literally go on and off. If feedback's at 50%, hit hold, it freezes infinitely, turn hold off, it'll then slowly decay away at 50%.
Oh, that's very kind of musical and useful.
Yeah, and because you can have it so that the hold will trigger on and off, or will only hold when a gate is high. You can delve in and change all the behavior of it really easily. The manual's brilliant as well. It's one of those manuals that you enjoy reading. There's some nice musical ideas in there and ideas for different effects and ways to use it. I'll pull the image back up. Like everyone else, near enough because it came up loads. I used rings. Fairly simple. I just wanted lots of clicky, percussive sounds with an odd, sort of longer pitched note.
Yeah.
And in a similar way to you, Matthew, I quite like setting up patches and just stepping back, which is why I use the ultra random. I felt like that gave me enough to just sort of step back and go away. I was using the, what's it called? I can have a look and tell you.
So which part, what was actually controlling the pitch then from this? Can't quite see where it's going.
There was no pitch control, but I was modulating the structure on rings. So you got harmonic changes that sounded like pitch changes. But
yeah, that's what I was kind of getting thrown a little bit. Yeah, because you've not got anything into the Vault per octave have you there now?
No, the same as elements. That there's so many harmonic changes you can do. It seems like it's going up or down in pitch. I use the opto integrator out on the ultra random to go back into its own clock FM.
Right.
It was all set fairly slow, so that's what was giving it these sort of ramps and crescendos of tempo and things like that. All the random, as you can see, just mad cable spaghetti was patched out all over with stackables.
So, like listening to, if you just listen to the patch and then you hadn't seen the amount of modules that we use, it seems like there's a huge chaos. Seems like it a much, not 3 modules at all.
Yeah, I think that's the DLD, and again, it's because it doesn't repitch when the time shifts, and it doesn't repitch when the clock input, the ping changes. You had this sort of almost canon of the sound would speed up, the delays would speed up, they'd ramp down, they'd ramp back, and it all felt fairly playful back on and off.
Yeah, if it were doing the pitching thing, you'd be able to spot it more, wouldn't you? Be able to go, oh yeah, that's where that kind of sounds.
Yeah, delay times just doubled, or you'd really easily hear it. It took because the clock is just being FM'd on the ultra random, so it's random changes. It's not going up to double time or down to half time. It took to just a completely random clock really well. It locked in really fast to the new tempo, which was good. And then tricks that we've talked about before, where you use a fluctuating CV into a gate input. Usually you expect a gate to go into a gate input, but you can use an LFO, and when the LFO reaches a certain voltage, it will sort of turn the gate on and back off again. So the hold and the reverse was done by that. Changing delay feed, because you can you could go in and change the mix, but I kind of prefer leaving the mix at 50-50 and altering the VCA's feeding delay level.
Right.
And having those different per side and different delay times instantly opens up this wide stereo thing going on. The one thing I would have liked to have done, just having done the video, and we've all had this, if I just had one more module, was 2 things. An LFO just to modulate delay time really subtly in like the Vault per octave mode, where it doesn't quantize to different divisions. It's just like CV over an analog delay. And the low pass filter in the feedback path, just to get that sort of spaced out, just analog delay kind of vibe. But there's literally a tonal change. It wasn't anything musical or a different application. And I kind of like that that's not on there. I like that they've gone for, this is super crisp digital delay. If you want colour, do it yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it sounds just, the patch just sounds super dense. It just sounds like, there's way more involved.
Yeah, it does sound like there's way more going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, DLD is so good. I like you told me you spat your tea out, Matthew. I channeled my inner
I heard it. Unbelievable.
I put a video, as well as the patch examples, if people want to check out more of me being stupid, I put a video up of the 3 module challenge. A little bit Matt Berry, a little bit David Attenborough, and a lot of me just being daft.
There's a combination.
I want to hear your Matt Berry impression. Matt Berry.
Yeah.
I added in Sound of the African Plains as well. I didn't put them in a radio music for added effect and kudos, but
you haven't been drinking pond water again, have you?
That's what comes out of the taps in Bradford.
Right.
Christ.
So yeah, I feel definitely something we'll revisit. Like we said, people's responses was nuts. There's so much stuff to get through. So
it's really kind of good as well, kind of interacting with people rather than us just kind of talking at people. It made a change, kind of going on to all this social media and just chatting with people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the interaction's been brilliant, and learning a loads of stuff from other people as well, as people do to us that make videos, and I do at other people that make videos. It's really nice when you see someone and go, "How have you done that?" And then everyone shares all this stuff. It's really cool. It's interesting how Modular's like that. You get sort of music production circles where people have these secret weapons where they won't tell you what compressor they use or how they do it in a DAW, and they're really secretive. I don't think Modular's like that at all.
It's fairly open.
To back that up and agree, and cite a specific example from this month is Stevio. I saw Stevio playing in at the Pickle Factory. I actually saw Caitlin Aurelia Smith as well. She was over there. But the you know, has consistently been like every time I've emailed him, he writes like this big long email about everything. All of the questions that people ask him, he writes big long responses. And on all the forums, I've literally gone through and cut and pasted every Muff Wiggler response he's ever put into like a document. He's just like sharing the amazing and unique way that he's configured his modular, which is particularly unique to him. I haven't seen anyone else do in any form. And yet it's such a secret sauce, and he just gives it away. He's like, you know, absolutely. I mean, I was like, what if I can crack the exact patch? I've been trying to work out exactly how it works. It's so interesting. And I was like, if you just let me loose on his system, Stevio, and I mean, obviously the answer is like, you know, you're all going to sound like, you know, maybe not like I'll sound like myself. I hope that's true. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe I could sound like him if I wanted to, but it's that thing about narrative video. I was thinking about that, where it's, you know, what makes it is your own reaction to it, as in you
totally
choose what you set your challenge, because with a lot of it we've set up random modules, so we don't quite know what's going to happen, and it's ultimately your judgment what you keep. So even if it's random, this is a different point, but even if it's randomly generated, it's still your music.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's like the equivalent of a ready-made in art. You know, you've like taken a toilet and written
but yeah, we've got a few other ideas for challenges. I won't sort of splash it all straight away, but follow up to free module challenge. Some other restricted ideas as well.
4 module challenge.
Yeah, do 4, then 5, then 6, and then 7.
The no module challenge.
5 patch cables.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned the couple I will mention. We had a poll originally to vote whether you wanted a free module challenge or a 32 HP challenge. When without doubt, everyone went free modules. It would be interesting to do the 32 HP with it being the size of, and obviously you don't have to use this case, you can do it in whatever you want, but the size of a Dope for Beauty case is 32 HP. And Logan at Low Gain that came on last episode and the one before mentioned that as well. This idea of doing the sort of Dope for Beauty case challenge. I quite like to do.
That's a good one. Like Matt Preston is always going on about like limited case ideas. I always think it's like a fascinating topic.
Yeah. Well, also money-wise, you know, people getting into it and they go, "I've got 6U. What should I get?" I like this idea of that is, and you do that, don't you, Matthew? When you travel or when you played in Canada that we spoke about last episode, you just had 6U, 84 HP. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just I love it when the fact, you know, we've all got sort of large studio setups and stuff behind us and things, but I really love that idea of just having, right, I've got this amount of space, I can take these modules and nothing else. That's it, and that's going to form the performance. You know, you can't suddenly rush home and grab an extra oscillator or another LFO. That's just it. You work with it, you know.
Yeah, same with you, Greg. It's that pink Lamon case behind you, Ross Lamon. With the Ableton Users event you did, talking about modular, we were discussing it before you went, and that's 6U of 104 HP, is it?
Yeah.
And we were saying, "Oh, this is what I'm going to take." I'm like, "Oh, cool, take this with it and modulate it in this way." And like, "Well, I can't because I've got this, and I need, you know, X, Y, and Z to do the job on a day." I really like this sort of restriction idea.
Yeah, I like that lunchbox one as well, because initially I thought, when we were about, because I thought about, let's do this 3-module one. Then I thought, wouldn't it be good if we could get, if we all used exactly the same 3 modules. But then the trouble with that idea, even though it'd be quite interesting, is that you're excluding people then who don't have those 3 modules.
Yeah.
3 modules is open to all modular formats as well.
Yeah, exactly.
The interesting thing with this is, all right, it's 32 HP. There's only 4 power slots. And you might think, well, I can plug in a flying bus board and get my 5th module, if you're using multiple little modules instead of 4 8 HP ones. Yeah. But it really doesn't have enough power for you to start putting a ribbon cable in and trying to plug lots of, you could put a Pico system in that and do a whole 30-minute acid jam set, but it doesn't have the power for it. So unless you dropped a micro juice in or raw power, which is eating into your precious HP, you really can't do that much. I don't think you get that many digital modules in. It's fairly low power spec.
Well, I think we mentioned it. Well, I mentioned it rather when we were at Synthfest, Ben, and we did the talk together. I mentioned it sometimes that I'll do stuff like I'll restrict myself to the number of cables, like for instance 3. So you could actually maybe that idea where you just go, you've got a 3 cable challenge.
Well, Dan, I'm really sorry if I got the name wrong. I'm sure it's Dan. Fomu Cables. I think they sell them in packs of 5. He was at the Leeds event. He suggested that. He said, how about a 5 cable challenge with the sort of idea that I'll give packs of cables away, or, we didn't work it out. It's not like I've got a big box of cables to hand out to people, but he'd suggested that a 5 cable challenge.
I think that would be really good, because I think it would just really frustrate the hell out of you. We're doing a patch and
the idea of stereo has gone immediately, because if you want to go stereo rings into clouds and stereo out of clouds, that's 4 cables gone. If we include the output cables that go to your sound card as well, it's super tight. But I really like that idea.
Yeah, me too.
Again, we should probably say no to
banana. Sorry, stackables.
Well, complete voices, because you're going to have stuff that's normaled within them.
Yeah, voices are normaled, I think, for that one. Like a Mother 32, you can press play and have it all completely done without a single cable by your output. So we'll have to come up with some sort of restriction for that. One
of the restrictions that we've not talked about, which is you should have a time limit, as in it should be to compose a piece of music to a minute. Like it should be at 1 minute. You have 1 minute. Do your worst.
Begin patching.
Yeah.
No. As in, like, you have a minute to produce a piece of music using whatever patch you want.
All right. Wow. So literally from empty case, you start like the Fact Magazine challenge where they do 10 minutes.
No. Not like as in literally just the composition. So like not to patch from scratch, but to compose a piece of music in that lasts 1 minute.
You've got 60 seconds of audio you can hand in. But you can spend all night making the patch. All right, I like that. I like the 10-minute Fact Magazine thing, but that's difficult for people because it means them filming themselves and it being really heavily sort of restricted, if you wanted, and properly timing it all. I like the 60-second idea.
Yeah, it's good.
So there's a few there. We'll have to get on with that and follow it up soon. Is there anything anyone wants to mention? Things coming up? Anything before we sort of close off?
We've got Ross's due to go to next week, haven't we?
Yeah, this might be up just before or just after the Lemon, Bells and Whistles, Crackles and Pops. Named that, it always comes up, why did he call it that? Named that because he thought the first synth meet he ever went to sounded like people making bells and whistles and crackles and pops. And also, I can't remember who, but 2 people were trying to get the perfect FM bell tone. That was the like geek out session for the afternoon at this meet. Who's got the best like through zero FM bell or whatever they were doing at the time?
Bell end.
Who's got the best bell end? That's a different thing altogether.
Oh, is it? It's a different gentleman's website. I remember now.
Yeah. Well, things from me, DLD video from 4MS, completely blown me away. Really, really impressed with that. The Red Dragon from Hex Inverter, that'll follow it. What about you, Alex? As you said, you've got Casio FZ1 video. The generative music video is great as well.
I've done I filmed my modular jams. So for those my Patreon fans, I've got the jams actually filmed. There's one that went up live for everyone, but the previous ones are hidden. But this, no coast.
Yeah. I'm
finishing that tomorrow night. So yeah, no coast, and then I've got to think of something for Patreon. There's this, I've got folks sort of sending ideas for things like talk why you sort of got certain modules, what your philosophy of your rack is, and there's lots to explore. My God, but I owe loads of videos as well. So the next big one is Shapeshifter. So I'm gonna long time coming, but that thing do something.
Yeah, I love that.
God, there's so much you can do, but I need to pare it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be a tricky one to kind of approach that of where do I start? What do I include in this?
Absolutely. I went to Daniel and was like, what do you think? What would you want to sort of highlight? So it'll be a few things. It won't be a comprehensive, this is a video manual, because there's a really good one that a guy's done that's a 15-part video.
Yeah, it is. I've watched that several times, and it is literally some 15 parts.
That says everything you need to know, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, good. One thing to mention for you, Alex, is to go support Mylar Melodies on Patreon. Properly going for it on there, giving people that are contributing and supporting content that others don't get. Like you said, people, I think, is it $10? If they give $10 a month, they can ask you for a video.
Yeah, I've limited it because there's just going to be. I've discovered that people are adjusting their pledges to $10 even after they've got in, and then so I will honor that thing because I wanted to put a cap on that. Otherwise, I'll just be making videos for patrons forever. But yeah, it's there's tiers, so you can give $1 thing, sounds and videos every month or something new. So it's just a way of rewarding people basically for supporting, and it really works. It's amazing. So loads and loads of people are supported, and it's $360 a month, and it's a real incentive to produce things. I've got so much going on. It's really hard to find the time to do videos, and as you know, it's massively time consuming. I don't know how you do it so prolifically. So I'm kind of it's great. It's giving me focus. Actually, I was just talking to, Zoe from Transistor Sounds Labs.
Yeah.
And she's just launching a Patreon as well. So it's Patreon / I think Zoe Blade Music. Because she literally just sent it to me. She's using it as a way of music on Patreon, as a way of sort of forcing her to produce. She's got all this unfinished music that she's sitting on. It's well, if I do this, then you've got an audience to deliver to, because it's all very well and good to give things away for free, but if you think you've got people who are actually prepared to invest in you, then it's that incentive you've got to drop things, you've got to make the time. Modular challenge, it sort of forces you to work when we've all got lives and jobs. It's
not a finished bit, it's just data on a hard drive then, isn't it? Literally zeros and ones unless you give it a home.
What scares me is I've been making music for 16 years and I've not really released anything. That's another thing, is I'm working on an album, and I've used deadlines to get myself to this point where I'm almost there. There's a few little things I'll tweak, basically because I was thinking about LFO, like Mark Bell. And you think with Mark Bell, he passed away having released his last album in 2003. Most of the music, he will have been making music constantly throughout that whole time. We all do. And so there's all of this unfinished LFO music, which will be on a laptop somewhere.
Yeah.
And we're not going to, but we might not. And that is a fucking tragedy. It's at all costs, and this is sort of reflects into my own. Also, I like the 3 module challenge because it's productive, and it's about us using modules and not about fetishizing modules.
Yeah,
because I'm all about get some fucking music done.
Well, the things, I mean, obviously promote everyone anyway, and we've been friends for a while and well aware of what each of us doing. But the thing I've really liked seeing with Patreon, well, not only are you doing it properly, I'm slack as anything where it's there if anyone wants to leave anything, but it's just there. Like, I don't really do anything on it. I don't have time. I think I'm making too many videos to try and organize that bit properly, whereas you've let it sort of guide what you're doing, and the things that aren't just module videos to fetish over, like the idea of generative music ideas. I really like that video.
Yeah,
and also the idea of the
music.
Yeah, and the idea of users doing stuff as well. Like the Dope for PLL video was because someone asked for it. One of the contributors, which is cool. Yeah,
that's a great.
No, I just heard great. Just cutting it out. But yeah, no, it's great. I really like that platform. Anyone supporting people that are doing stuff they love, and especially people giving stuff away for free. So yeah, bit of a weird note to end on, I guess. A bit preachy, which I don't intend to be at all. But yeah, cool. Well, cheers for coming on, Alex. Really good. We'll certainly have you on in the future.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
We'll link everything below, but Patreon, YouTube, go support Alex. Pester him on Twitter to finish this album because I really want to hear it as well. And yeah, we'll speak to everyone soon with a winner of the T-shirt from the challenge. Great. I'll see everyone later then.
Cheers, guys.
Bye. Welcome to the Modular Podcast, episode 9 bonus video, if you like, Brucey bonus. Just to announce the winner of the free module challenge. We needed a bit more time because so many people sent stuff in. Loads of good stuff. And yeah, we've got Greg and Matthew. We've not got a lot to say between us. But
really, apart from there was absolutely so many things to go through, and all quite diverse, weren't they, as well?
Yeah. The three of us just want, rather than putting up a Facebook post or something, we all just wanted to come on and sort of announce a winner, which I won't keep you waiting. It was Nero Bellum on Facebook. Sorry if we've pronounced on Instagram. Sorry if we've pronounced that wrong. I won't try and play it because it's playing up, but did a great patch with a DPO, Rennie and Verb that all of us thought sounded like several layers going on. Big sort of melodic ambient piece that worked really well. Head to his Instagram page, Nero_Bellum_official. There's loads of good stuff. He also, and it had no effect on him winning, but did lots of different free module challenges, all of which were good. Lots of different approaches to it as well. We'll message you, Nero, and get an address and send out a T-shirt. So yeah, thanks to everyone for taking part. It's something we're going to do again in the future, maybe with a different set of rules. So watch out for it.